December carries a weight that many people overlook, yet deep within the spirit there is a tug, a whisper, a gentle stirring that reminds us that this month is unlike any other. It is a divine intersection between what has been and what is about to be. When you step into December, you step into a spiritual timeline where God begins to gather the unresolved places of your year and bring them into alignment with his perfect purpose. It is the season where the threads of your journey, some frayed, some tangled, some still unfinished, begin to weave into a picture you could not see before. This month holds the power of completion, not because of the calendar, but because of the character of God. He is a finisher. He is the one who begins a good work and ensures it reaches fullness. December becomes the evidence of his commitment to you. Throughout the year, there were moments when you wondered whether certain prayers were forgotten or whether certain battles would ever end. But December comes with a quiet declaration from heaven: I am still working in this month. The breakthroughs that seemed delayed are suddenly within reach. The healing that felt slow begins to accelerate. The clarity you prayed for all year begins to unfold. Nothing is wasted and nothing is random. God uses December to close cycles that were never meant to follow you into the next season. Relationships that drained you, habits that hindered you, fears that held you back, they begin to lose their power as God prepares you for what's ahead. December is also a month of spiritual inventory. It is the moment when you look back, not in regret, but in revelation. You see the battles you survived, the tears that watered your growth, the storms that shaped your character, and the unexpected blessings that carried you when you didn't even know you needed help. You begin to understand that what didn't work was protection, what was delayed was preparation, and what broke you was actually building you. God ties together the lessons, the losses, the victories, and the victories in progress, showing you that everything had purpose. There is a divine acceleration that happens in December. What couldn't move all year begins to shift swiftly. Doors that refused to open suddenly swing wide. Ideas that were stagnant begin to flow with fresh inspiration. Strength that seemed depleted gets restored. The grace of God rests heavily on this month because he wants you to see that he is faithful to finish what he started. He wants you to step into the new year not defeated, but delivered, not wounded, but wiser, not empty, but overflowing. This month is not a countdown. It is a culmination. It is where God gathers the fragments of your life, every piece, every moment, every scar, and he turns them into something beautiful, something complete, something aligned with destiny. December reminds you that God does not forget, God does not abandon, and God does not leave anything unfinished. It is the divine closing of one chapter and the sacred preparation for the next. Prayer in this season cannot be casual, routine, or mechanical. December demands a deeper cry, a sharper focus, and a more intentional approach to seeking God. This is not the month for vague whispers or half-hearted petitions. This is the month for bold, prophetic, atmosphere-shifting prayer, the kind of prayer that steps into darkness and demands light, the kind of prayer that confronts obstacles and refuses to retreat. When you pray in December, you are not simply asking, you are declaring You are not hoping for change, you are announcing it. Prayer becomes a weapon, a key, a command in the spirit that realigns everything connected to your life. This kind of prayer speaks directly to the barriers that delayed your progress. It calls out the storms that have been roaring over your mind and commands them to be still. It confronts every weapon formed against your purpose and strips it of its power. It opens your mouth to speak life into places that felt lifeless. December prayer is strategic because it targets the places where the enemy tried to weaken you throughout the year. It is precise because it is fueled by revelation. You begin to see the areas where God is shifting things, and you pray with the confidence of someone who knows heaven is already moving. There is a difference between pray and ask for something and pray into something. In December, you pray into blessing. You pray into breakthrough. You pray into alignment. You pray into divine timing. Your words become pathways that usher God's promises into manifestation. You begin to call forth opportunities, favor, clarity, and strength. You speak into your future with authority, shaping what is about to come. Prayer becomes a spiritual declaration that you refuse to end the year in defeat. It becomes your way of saying, I'm in agreement with God's plan, and I'm rejecting anything that contradicts it. Bold prayer shifts environments. It changes the atmosphere of your home, your mind, your relationships, and your circumstances. When you pray boldly, you invite heaven to overrule what earth tried to finalize. You declare that you are not bound by what happened earlier in the year. You remind every obstacle that you serve a God who answers. December prayer has weight because it is backed by a year's worth of growth, lessons, battles, and testimonies. You know more. You've survived more. You've learned more. Your faith has expanded, and now your prayer carries a maturity that makes it powerful. December is also a month where spiritual clarity heightens. You begin to understand why certain doors stayed closed, and you pray with a renewed sense of discernment. You're not just asking God to bless you, you're asking Him to align you. You're not only asking for open doors, you're asking for the right doors. You're not simply praying for increase, you're praying for wisdom to steward what's coming. This month invites you to pray with the intensity of someone who knows that heaven is listening. You pray with the urgency of someone who realizes that time is both precious and purposeful. You pray with expectation, trusting that the same God who carried you through the storms of the year is now preparing to crown your year with blessing. In December, prayer becomes your declaration of readiness. It becomes your spiritual signature that you are prepared for the blessing, prepared for the breakthrough, and prepared for the divine shift God is releasing into your life. You do not walk into December like someone who barely made it through the year. You walk in clothed with expectation, wrapped in faith, and strengthened by every battle you thought would break you. There is a spiritual posture required for this month, and it is not hesitation, it is anticipation. You are not entering December empty-handed or empty-hearted. You are stepping in with the understanding that something is about to shift, something is about to turn, and something is about to be released over your life that could not come before this moment. When you cross into this month, heaven leans closer and your spirit begins to sense what your eyes cannot yet see. That breakthrough is not just coming, it is near. Expectation is not passive, it is active faith. It is waking up each day believing that God is about to move in an unusual way. It is choosing to see possibility even when circumstances look unchanged. It is refusing to be defined by what didn't happen earlier in the year and choosing instead to believe that God saved something special for the end. December carries a grace that invites you to believe again, to dream again, to hope again. It is the month where your spirit says, I don't know how God will do it, but I know He will. It is a readiness that becomes a magnet for heaven's intervention. You enter December believing that new doors are not only possible, but prepared. You believe that opportunities are not just potential, they are scheduled. You believe that blessings are not abstract, they have your name attached. The atmosphere of this month pushes you to trust God on a deeper level because breakthroughs rarely come to the unexpected. When you expect God to move, you position yourself to recognize His movement when it arrives. You walk differently, pray differently, listen differently, and act differently. Your posture of faith becomes the very catalyst for the blessing you've been seeking. This month calls you to shake off the weight of disappointment. It calls you to release the things that told you to stop believing. It invites you to lift your head, straighten your back, and walk like someone who knows that God finishes what He starts. You are stepping into December not as a survivor, but as a believer. Not as someone who barely endured, but as someone who knows that greater is coming. Expectation is the fuel that sets this month apart from the others. It is what transforms routine into revelation and waiting into receiving. December is the month where your faith speaks louder than your fear. It is when you stop preparing for the worst and begin preparing for the blessing. You open space for answers, make room for breakthroughs, and clear spiritual clutter that once blocked your vision. You stop saying, what if it doesn't happen? And start declaring, what if it's already on the way? When you step into December expecting blessing, you awaken every dormant promise. When you step in believing for breakthrough, you stir the heavens into motion. And when you step in prepared, you signal to God that you are ready, truly ready, for what He has been preparing for you all along. Breakthrough is never only about what happens around you, it is deeply connected to what happens within you. So many people pray for open doors, new levels, fresh opportunities, and sudden blessings, yet forget that the heart, the mind, and the spirit must be prepared to carry what they are asking for. There are blessings that require emotional maturity, discipline, and spiritual stability before they can be released. Sometimes the blessing is ready. Heaven has already prepared it. The answer is already written with your name on it, but you are not yet in the internal condition to hold it without losing it. This is why December becomes such an essential month, not just for receiving, but for being refined. There is a divine preparation that happens when the year begins to close. God starts dealing with the hidden places, the quiet attitudes, the unhealed wounds, the subtle fears, and the internal resistance that could sabotage what you've been praying for. He softens the areas that became hardened through disappointment. He strengthens the places that became weak through struggle. He reveals the mindsets that limit your progress. He exposes the habits that silently drain your potential. Breakthrough does not simply arrive, it is attracted to a heart that is ready, a mind that is clear, and a spirit that is aligned. So when you pray for breakthrough in December, you are also praying for transformation. You are asking God to shape you into the person who can steward the next season with wisdom instead of anxiety, with confidence instead of hesitation, and with faith instead of insecurity. There are blessings that could crush you if they arrived too early. There are opportunities that could overwhelm you if you carried old mindsets into new seasons. There are relationships you prayed for that require emotional strength you are still being built into. God is not withholding from you, He is preparing you. This month becomes a spiritual mirror. You begin to confront the things within yourself that no longer serve your destiny. You see where fear has disguised itself as caution, where procrastination has masked itself as patience, where doubt has dressed itself as realism. You start to recognize the inner battles that must be resolved before the outer breakthrough can manifest. God refines your thinking, expands your faith capacity, and teaches you to guard your peace. He develops the you that can thrive at the level you're praying for. Internal preparation is also about releasing what you cannot carry into the next season. You cannot hold breakthrough with hands full of old pain. You cannot walk into new doors with the weight of expired seasons. You cannot step into abundance with a mindset trained by scarcity. December becomes the month where God helps you let go of the fear of failure, the need for control, the wounds of disappointment, the patterns that keep repeating because you never confronted them. He removes the emotional and spiritual clutter so blessing has room to settle. The breakthrough you are asking for requires a version of you that is awakened, strengthened, and aligned. God is shaping that version in December. He is not simply preparing the blessing, He is preparing you for what you've been asking Him to do. When the internal shift happens, the external breakthrough will no longer be delayed. It will find you ready. December becomes a month soaked in divine restoration, overflowing with peace and saturated in supernatural favor. Throughout the year, there were moments that drained you, moments where your strength felt thin, your hope felt shaky, and your spirit felt stretched. But December carries a different kind of grace, a grace that begins to refill what life tried to empty. It is a month where God starts returning what was stolen, renewing what was weakened, and repairing what was broken. Restoration in December is not just about getting back what you lost. It's about receiving it in a better, stronger, more matured form. What comes back to you carries wisdom, clarity, and protection because you now understand its value in a way you didn't before. This is the month where God restores your peace, the kind that silences the storms swirling in your mind, the kind that settles your heart even when circumstances haven't changed yet, the kind that wipes away the residue of anxiety and brings your soul back into alignment. All the heaviness you've carried, worries, pressures, fears, begins to fall off as God breathes calm into your spirit. You start waking up with clarity instead of confusion, with confidence instead of dread, with assurance instead of doubt. Peace becomes your portion because December is a month where God finishes what chaos tried to interrupt. Restoration also touches your relationships, your connections, your emotional world. December becomes a month where misunderstandings are cleared, where reconciliation becomes possible, where toxic ties are broken, and where divine connections enter your life with perfect timing. People who drained you begin to fade from your atmosphere, not because of conflict, but because God is making room for healthier voices. People who strengthen your spirit and push you toward purpose start appearing. Divine connections, unexpected partnerships, and supportive relationships begin weaving into your path. Restoration is not only about returning things to you, it's about repositioning the right people around you. Supernatural favor also becomes a key theme in this month. Favor that opens doors you didn't knock on. Favor that puts your name in rooms you've never entered. Favor that accelerates opportunities you thought would take years. Favor that causes people to bless you without knowing why they feel led to do it. In December, God aligns circumstances in ways that show you He has been orchestrating things behind the scenes all along. What you couldn't make happen through effort, He makes happen through favor. Suddenly, signed papers, approvals, breakthroughs, and unexpected opportunities begin to flow your direction, not because you pushed for them, but because you were positioned for them. December also brings healing, spiritual, emotional, and sometimes even physical. You begin to feel lighter because burdens that clung to you start dissolving. Patterns that followed you all year lose their power. Attacks that once overwhelmed you suddenly stop. Your spirit begins to rise again. Strength returns, hope returns, joy returns. You find yourself stepping into each day with a refreshed mind and a renewed heart. You begin to feel the shift, the sense that God is not just sustaining you, but elevating you. And as restoration and favor unfold, blessings begin to locate you. You don't chase them, they chase you. You don't strain for them, they align themselves with your path. December becomes the month where everything meant for you starts moving toward you. It is the month where God prepares you to cross into a new year, not broken or depleted, but restored, strengthened, favored, and filled with peace that only heaven can give. Declarations are not just spoken words, they are spiritual activations that shift the atmosphere of your life. When you open your mouth and begin to speak faith, you are not merely expressing hope, you are commanding alignment between heaven's promise and your earthly reality. December requires this kind of bold declaration because it is a month where what you say carries weight. All year, you have been spoken to by circumstances, challenged by storms, and confronted by doubts. But in this final month, you speak back. You take authority over what tried to break you. And through your words, you set the tone for your transition into a new season. A declaration is a seed. Every time you speak one, you plant something powerful in the soil of your future. When you declare peace, you give your soul permission to rest. When you declare breakthrough, you position your spirit to receive. When you declare restoration, you prepare the ground for what God wants to return to you. The enemy fights your declarations because he knows that once your mouth aligns with God's word, every chain that tried to hold you begins to weaken, every lie begins to crumble, every fear begins to retreat. This month is not about waiting for change to happen. It is about speaking change into existence. Declarations are also reminders to your own spirit. They help you reclaim what you forgot during hard seasons. When you say, I declare peace, you are telling your mind to quiet down. When you say, I declare blessing, you are telling your atmosphere to shift. When you say, I declare protection, you are telling every assignment of the enemy to lose its grip. Spoken faith is not self-help. It is spiritual warfare. It is stepping into the authority God gave you and refusing to let life, emotions, or circumstances dictate the final word over your year. December becomes a month where declarations act as spiritual keys. There are doors that only open when you speak. There are chains that only break when you speak. There are blessings that only activate when you speak. This is why the speech emphasizes speaking out loud. Your voice carries power. Your words carry direction. Your declarations carry destiny. Silence is agreement with whatever is happening, but declaration is agreement with what God is doing. This is the month where you refuse to be silent. When you declare favor, you pull opportunities towards you. When you declare healing, you open space in your life for restoration. When you declare strength, you awaken resilience you didn't know you had. Every declaration becomes a shield, a weapon, a pathway, a bridge. You begin to feel the shift inside you long before you see the shift around you. Words create atmosphere, and an atmosphere creates expectation, and expectation creates manifestation. This key point highlights that your declarations in December are not just for this month, they set the tone for the entire year ahead. What you allow into your mouth will eventually shape what enters your life. Speaking faith is how you close one season and open another. It is how you prevent old battles from following you into the new year. It is how you seal what God has done and unlock what God is about to do. When you declare blessing, protection, restoration, and breakthrough, you step into a divine rhythm where heaven responds to your voice. And when heaven responds, nothing on earth can resist what God has already spoken into motion